Some years ago, in the context of counselling, a handsome young Irishman came to see me. He had that charming Irish lilt, and it almost certainly kissed the Blarney Stone. Indeed, he spoke very entertainingly for some time, and I began wondering, why has he come to see me at all? As the clock made its way around the therapeutic hour, he eventually came to his reason. He explained he wanted help in relationships, saying he didn't have trouble initially attracting young women, but felt really awkward once a conversation was started up. He then became quite earnest, leaning in, and he said to me, "Chris, can you tell me what can I say to a woman that she'll find interesting?" So today I want to talk about social esteem. We all desire and need to be interesting to others. A real problem emerges, however, when we deliberately try to be interesting. John Elster, in his fine book Sour Grapes, put it beautifully, saying, "Nothing is so unimpressive as behaviour designed to impress." In this, he catches a really important truth that no one likes a show off or a try hard. But if we are to be honest, we all want to be interesting to others. And you'd think in the age of social media we'd all have that handled, but clearly it's not that straightforward. In fact, we have a genuine dilemma. As we've seen, trying hard to be interesting turns people off. But being interesting to people is important to us, and it's actually an essential part of life. But then again, trying to gain status and esteem, for example, from social media, comes with a whole range of very well documented dangers. So what are we to do? Go into our shells? Conceal our desire to impress? Pretend not to care? Well, no. I'll argue there are healthy and ways to be interesting to others, but they're somewhat counterintuitive. So to begin, human beings really do care about how others value or esteem them. That's entirely normal. Being interesting actually brings tangible benefits, and we're deeply wired to search for this kind of esteem. Now, one problem that we have is that social media makes us super conscious of our self-presentation, or what we call in psychology impression management. In fact, many argue that social media is producing a type of widespread narcissism. So, look, I'll dodge that question for now, but one thing is certain. Many of us are becoming much more self-conscious, seeing our life more and more as performance, with ourself as the leading actor. This is not good. In fact, we've seen a growth in anxiety disorders, particularly amongst teenage girls, and this has definite links to social media. As I've said, the desire to impress is not new. We're born into the world with natural skills of impression management that at a very young age we both consciously and unconsciously practice in order to influence how we're perceived by others. Now, these dynamics of esteem can be understood through the lens of evolutionary psychology. In our Stone Age origins, esteem from the village determined whether we were provisioned and whether we would have mates. So, esteem was directly tied to our survival, our well-being, and our lifestyle. So there's nothing new under the sun here. So let's go back to our Irish friend's question. "Chris, can you tell me what can I say to a woman that she'll find interesting?" So managing to keep a straight face, I leant in full seriousness, and I paused. He leant in, and I said, "I think I know the answer." And then I said, "Shut up and be genuinely interested in her. Listen with complete focus. She'll relax and likely start to find you quite interesting." Well, there was a quite long, pregnant pause as we sat in silence, face to face. And then he grinned broadly. He understood. Now, why might this approach work? When we're interested in others, it lifts their self-esteem. We're designed to resonate with this kind of interested attention. And practiced authentically, it's not fake, it's not a manipulation. In fact, it can demonstrate a healthy self-esteem that doesn't need to be constantly promoting self. It relaxes the recipient. They feel heard, understood, and accepted. Indeed, there's a plethora of research that shows that kindness towards others provides a cascade of benefits, including lower blood pressure and heart rate, reduced vascular constriction and inflammation. It calms our fight-flight system. It quietens and calms the mind. It brings about feelings of warmth and connection towards others. But the extraordinary thing is that these effects are brought out in both people. It's as good for the giver as the receiver, as good for you as them. Now, I once did some thinking about what makes for a great conversation. You know those conversations when time passes quickly, where you lose a sense of self, where you and the other become as one, and the conversation is full of richness and meaning. I would argue that both parties here experience feeling heard, understood, and accepted. So, one practical suggestion is to be committed to giving these three experiences to those people you encounter in life. Make your attention deliberate, unwavering, and sincere. They will be grateful, and they'll rate you highly for it. And a way to understand this is as interpersonal mindfulness, where we're curious about what we're going to find that's genuinely interesting in them. Now, as in meditation, your mind's going to wander, but we're committed to tugging it back to the primary object, in this case, the person in front of you. In this way, you're practicing mindfulness many times a day, centering in other people. Now, I know that sometimes you really have to hunt to find something genuinely interesting in the other person. That's true. But generally, if you work at it, you will find it. And another important thing, people who are genuinely interested, who are actively curious, they also happen to be more interesting to others. They generally have a passion or a pursuit to explore and refine, and this leads to having interesting things to say. It's a very attractive quality. I hasten to add, it's not by trying to be interesting. It's a delightful side effect. In fact, it's the opposite of self-absorption and self-consciousness. It's not impression management. It's self-forgetting. So, to paraphrase Dale Carnegie somewhat, the next time you want to be interesting, remember just one thing: be interested.